James Qikiqtani appears before the board of Qikiqtani Inuit Association. His report is nearly complete. He and his team have reflected on the testimony of more than 300 Qikiqtani Inuit. They have reviewed thousands of pages from the government historical records. They have conducted interviews with the government and the RCMP representatives. In October 2010, Qikiqtani formally presented his recommendations to the QIA. By then, his report will have taken more than 3 years to complete, but it has been many decades in the making.
Under your direction, to start formulating a strategy to receive the testimonies of people.
Qikiqtani and his team asked the Qikiqtani Inuit to revisit the years between 1950 and 1975. Inuit opened their hearts and offered their memories of what was the most difficult period in recent history. So many profound and disturbing things happened to these people between 1950 and 1975. The pain is still sharp today. The wounds have yet to heal. Immediate losses made some of the deepest wounds. Inuit claim that the government of Canada ordered sled dogs to be killed as part of a plan to move people off the land and into settlements.
Well, it was in the late 80s when the Qikiqtani Inuit Association board members, especially from Qikiqtani and Pond Inlet, that got the idea that somebody or somebody should look into the alleged dog slaughters at the time. And that's how the idea came to be for the Truth Commission.
For years, the federal government rejected calls for a public inquiry. Instead, the government directed the RCMP to look into the allegations and report back to Parliament.
We asked for an official inquiry or hearings from the federal government. And that's when the RCMP came out with their dog slaughter report.
The QIA was deeply disappointed with the RCMP report, which rejected Inuit memories and was disrespectful of Inuit elders. More importantly, the QIA believed that the RCMP report missed an opportunity to heal the relations between Inuit and the government authorities. The QIA decided to seize that opportunity on its own.
There was a committee struck at the QIA, and I was chairman of the what we called the Dog Slaughter and Relocation Committee. And it was the board members originally from Qikiqtani and Clyde River and Pangdukto that were on the committee which I chaired, that came up with an idea along with our staff, executive director, to form our own commission, which we loosely modeled on the South African example of truth commissions.
In 2007, the QIA created Qikiqtani Truth Commission. A retired judge, respected Labrador Inuk James Qikiqtani, was appointed to chief commissioner. Madeline Redfern, a former clerk with the Supreme Court of Canada and widely respected for her work with various Inuit and Aboriginal organizations, was hired as the commission's executive director.
The original idea was to look into the dog slaughter in the South Baffin communities and the relocations in Qikiqtani. That's how the original commission was thought up, to deal with relocations in Qikiqtani and dog slaughter in the South Baffin. And when the commission was formed, we started finding that there were more broader issues that we needed to deal with.
The Qikiqtani Inuit Association, as a non-government organization, had come to realize that there was a similarity coming from the entire 13 community region in the way that Inuit were telling their histories. And they began to speak not specifically about the killing of dogs, but the QIA understood that there were broader issues behind that, and they wanted a commission to explore the kinds of impacts that government decisions had made, not necessarily RCMP decisions, but government decisions, as and examine more carefully the time of transition from people living in their scattered homes all over Qikiqtani region into what became 13 communities, and the kind of impacts that government decisions had on people.
Well, the Commission's mandate was to look at what happened in that period of Canada's history from 1950 to 1975 in the Eastern Arctic. It was a period of transition, not only for Inuit, but also a period of transition for Canada. So Inuit had lived a nomadic life and then moved into the settlements, and the Commission looked at why and how that happened, and the role of the government in that process, and the effects and consequences of those policies and those decisions on Inuit.
The second part of the Commission's mandate is to give the people opportunities to acknowledge what happened in those years and to forgive historic wrongs. In the Commission's view, this is the only way to heal the suffering of individuals and to heal relations between Qikiqtani Inuit and territorial and federal governments. The Commission will contribute to the healing process by developing recommendations that will promote reconciliation. In Inuktitut terms, Qikiqtani Inuit are seeking Saimaqtigiiniq, peace with past opponents. The search for Saimaqtigiiniq began with the consultation in the 13 communities of the Qikiqtani region.
I'm going to ask you to put your hand on the Bible, please. Do you promise that what you will say to the Commission today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Between
truth?
January 2008 and May 2009, more than 300 people came forward to share their memories of the years after 1950. Many people spoke about this period in their lives for the first time.
In the giving of their testimony, even in the very early stages, people began to express this feeling of angst, of anxiety, of even explaining that they felt hurt by the entire process of having moved into communities. And that process involved issues such as the delivery of education by the federal government, promises on housing, the questions about development within communities. Certainly we heard about people impacted by loved ones or themselves being sent to southern sanatoria for TB care. So it was very evident in a person recounting their personal history that there was much more behind this than memories of dogs being killed and the loss of what the sled dog culture invoked for Inuit.
The list of the issues grew quickly as the Commission traveled from community to community. The people spoke about the removal of the Inuit children from their families, relocations to the permanent settlements, and the tragic separation of families due to the lack of medical services in the north. For many who agreed to appear before the Commission, reliving these memories was nearly as traumatic as the experiences they lived.
My father died in Montreal.
Looking at people as they testify, assessing how these memories that they're referring to have such a strong hold on their emotions even today, it's clear to me that the emotions that people still feel, the very acute memories that they have about incidents when they were quite young, was one of the first things that struck me as I think adding a huge amount of credible value to testimony.
While the testimonies were being recorded and transcribed, professional historians in Ottawa combed through the government archives. They uncovered thousands of pages of letters and reports, documents that tell much of the story about the government policies and activities in the North after World War II. The Commission also interviewed Qatlunat who worked in the region after 1950. including retired RCMP officers, government officials, and scholars. With testimony gathered, archives searched, and interviews conducted, the Commission embarked on one of its most important phases.
We're here the second time to tell you
In late 2009 and early 2010, the Commission returned to the communities throughout the Qikiqtani region. These return visits gave the Commission the chance to tell the people of each community about what had been learned through testimony and research. The Commissioner was also able to speak directly to the residents about the recommendations he would be making to the QIA.
Well, part of the process was to give Inuit an opportunity to share what happened with them, and we found that even that really helped people, heal, in so much as it had been sort of festering and something that they'd lived with and often not shared with their family or friends. And by sharing it with the Commission and in some cases with their family and the community, it really did allow it to surface, and then it allowed the wounds to heal. It was really important for us to document that, and so it's not just an oral record, but by filming it, it's also a visual record, and all those testimonies and statements are part of an archive and database which our Inuit and our communities and the rest of Canada will be able to access and use.
The Commission has also written detailed histories of each Qikiqtani community and about each of the major themes talked about during the consultation. The transition from ilagit nunagivagtangi to year-round settlements, housing in the settlements, the settlement life and substance abuse, schooling and its effects on Inuit culture, the importance of hunting, the killing of Qikiqtani, health care and the separation or loss of the family members, development and employment, and poor communication and cross-cultural understanding. More information on each of these topics is presented in Part 2 of this video. Part 3 presents an overview of the Qikiqtani Truth Commission's final recommendations. The recommendations deal with 4 areas of concern: acknowledging and healing past wrongs, strengthening Inuit governance, strengthening Inuit culture, and creating healthy communities. The full written report is available from Qikiqtani Inuit Association and Community Liaison Officers. The report is also accessible on the QIA websites. This video continues now with Part 2, a look at what the Commission has learned.